Hey, what's up, you guys? Welcome back to a brand new video on my channel. You're watching Boss Your Money. In today's video, I'm going to tell you exactly how much you should have or how much you should save going forward at each and every different age level. So, if that's something you look forward to, if that's something you want to learn a little bit about, stick around and hit the like button for the YouTube algorithm. Let's get straight to the video. So before we get started on the actual amount that you need to be saving, you need to have two things ready with you before we start. One is that you need to have exactly how much is your annual expenditure. You need to have that amount in mind, and it is very important to know exactly how much you spend annually. Don't leave out any single expenditure. The second little piece of information that you need to know and be ready with is your net worth, your current net worth. If you don't know what net worth is, it is your total assets minus your total liabilities, which means every single thing that you own that has value minus every single thing that you owe to other people, every single amount that is owed to other people. So once you have these two things in mind, once you have these two amounts written down, then it becomes a little bit easier to figure out how much you need to save. And by the way, if you need a little bit more help on how to figure out your net worth and how to budget and things like that, I've gone into great detail in this video. So please be sure to check that out. So now, with all of that out of the way, let's get into how much you need to be saving at the age of 20. Now, 20 is an age when you might have just got out of school. You may be in college. You may be having a part-time job. You might be having a low-income job. Whatever it is that you might be doing, if you're 20 years old, then all you have to be doing is to not be in debt. As long as you're not in debt, you're way above majority of the people who are at the age of 20. Now you might be thinking, how can someone who's 20 years old be in debt? And that's all thanks to student loans. So as long as you've not taken any student loans, and as long as you've not gotten into some really bad habit of getting into other kinds of debts so early in your life, then you should be good to go. But if by any chance you are in debt, then the first thing that you want to do is work towards paying off that debt as soon as possible. Take up as many shifts as possible, take up as many jobs as possible, do weekend jobs, forget everything else, get that debt cleared. That way you have a lot of time, you have enough time to figure out how you're going to save and how you're going to plan for your long-term financial freedom. So now you've turned 25. What do you do when you're 25? You need to be career focused. You need to have a job or some kind of career that pays you well. Because at the end of the day, you can't get anywhere with a low income job. If your income is not very high, that's fine. But it is going to be harder for you to get to your savings goals or minimize your expenditure if your expenditure is low anyway. Because obviously you have expenditures that have to be made. There are some things that you cannot cut down. You need your food, you need your shelter. So it is very important to find a job that actually pays you well, that will enable you to cut down on your costs and increase your savings. So I wouldn't give you a target as such when you're 25 years old. What I will say is that don't go around clubbing all the time. Don't go around spending the money all the time. Just be disciplined and save as much as possible while also having fun. It's very important to treat yourself once in a while. It's very important to do the things that you love once in a while. But keep in mind that you have to start saving early. The earlier you start, the more money you're going to end up with. And the more money you end up with, it's going to give you financial freedom. That is very important. I know that money doesn't buy you happiness, but if you don't have money, the lack of money can give you problems as well, which a lot of people don't talk about. So keep that in mind and get started on your savings habits early. A little side note here, when you are talking about money, when you are thinking about saving, don't compare yourself to others. To each their own. Everyone is different. Everyone's requirements are different. Someone might be single and they would have lesser expenses. Someone might have 10 dependents where their expenses are high. So just because the guy with the 10 dependents has a higher income, don't think that you need to start earning as much as him, or don't think that you need to start saving as much as someone else who has a very high standard of living. Having goals is great and all, but keep in mind that you can live a happy and financially secure life without taking unnecessary risks just to try to match someone else who has higher savings or higher incomes. So keep that in mind and just live within your means and live for yourself. As long as you're happy, that's all that matters. Now, by the time you turn 30, I want you to have saved at least 1 year's worth of salary. So if your monthly salary is 5,000 dirhams, you should have had 60,000 dirhams in your savings by the time you turn 30. If your monthly salary is 10,000 dirhams, you should have 120,000 in your savings. And if your salary is 20,000 dirhams per month, you should have 240,000 dirhams in your savings. That's a minimum. If you have more than that, please don't go and spend it all because I said you need to have 1 year's worth of salary in your savings. If you're doing better than that, I'm more than happy for you. And all of these savings, don't just keep it in your bank account, right? I've talked about this a lot in a lot of my videos. And whether you're 20 or 60, it doesn't really matter. You need to ensure that all of your money is not just sitting in your bank account. So if you're 20 with no dependents, with nothing to lose, then you are able to take a little more risk. You know what I always say, start off with an emergency fund. But once you have an emergency fund in place, if you don't have dependents or responsibilities, or you're young enough to take that risk, I would say invest in higher risk investment options. You could invest a majority or a higher portion of your net worth into high risk, high reward investments like cryptocurrency. But at the same time, don't just go and put all of the money in cryptocurrencies just because you are able to take the risk. Always diversify your portfolio. If you have enough money, if you have 1,000,000 dirhams, if you have 100 dirhams, it doesn't really matter. What matters is that you need to have security. You need to have a diversified portfolio so that you balance out your risks. And as you grow older and as you take on more responsibilities, then you need to reduce your risk levels, start reducing your cryptocurrency investments and start increasing your US stock market investments, S&P 500 index fund investments, things like that, so that your risk level reduces, but you continue to get great returns on your savings and investments. So keep that in mind. When I'm talking about savings, you need to invest it in some form or the other. If you want to get started on your emergency funds, I would highly recommend that you start with something like national bonds. If you want to get started on something like cryptocurrencies, I would recommend starting out with BitOasis. Or if you want to start investing in a ETF, in a US-based ETF, I would recommend a platform like Sarwa. Or if you want to take a little bit more risk and do a little bit of day trading or something like that, I would recommend platforms like eToro for that. All of these links are in the description below if you're interested in trying any of them out. So by the time you turn 35, I want you to have about twice your annual income saved up. By the time you turn 40, I want you to have about 4 times your annual income saved up. And the reason I'm jumping over from twice your salary to 4 times your salary is because over the last 2 decades that you've been working, your salary has most definitely not stayed the same. You would have experienced some kind of growth in your financial position. And when you do experience growth like that, if you have a bonus, if you have an increment, if you have a promotion, whatever it might be, you should not increase your lifestyle to match that promotion proportionately. It's always fine to enjoy a little bit. It's always nice to spend a little bit extra when you can afford to do so. You need to obviously enjoy your life. So there is most definitely nothing against spending on yourself. But I feel like it shouldn't be done at the same proportion to which you received your increment or your growth in your career. You need to scale it down, live within your means, and that way you will be able to boost your savings and investing, and that's going to help you in the long run for sure. So by the time you turn 50, I want you to have about 6 times your annual salary saved up, and by the time you retire, I want you to have at least 10 times your annual salary saved up. And the reason for that is if you have 10 times your annual salary saved up at the time of retirement, you should typically be able to use that money for the rest of your life for your expenditure. Now, obviously, there are other factors and other variables in the equation, but in most cases, 25 times your annual expenditure that you calculated right at the beginning of this video, that amount at a rate of return of 4 to 5% should allow you to live off your savings for the rest of your life. And that's the whole point. That allows us financial freedom, that allows us to have a stress-free retirement, and that's what we're all trying to achieve here. It's not about living a lavish lifestyle, but when you do retire, you should be able to retire financially secure. And if you really want to boss your money, I would recommend that you save upwards of 50% of your monthly income, just like what I do. If you haven't seen my video on how I save 70% of my income, please do check it out. And remember, boss your money. Don't let your money boss you. If you enjoyed this video, if you found any value from this video, please give the like button a gentle squeeze, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.